Garbage men woman of the world, what is the best worst thing you have found thrown away? When I was a kid, my dad worked for a company that hauled away dumpsters and at one point found an old Alto sax complete in the box. Ended up playing it for 4 years up until high school when it was stolen. Could not play after that since my family could not afford a rental, let alone pay for a new one. Friend of ours found 2 bullet-resistant vests with paramedic written across them, being thrown out behind a fire station. I guess the expire or something. I found my wife in a pile of garbage while working on a garbage truck. I was working being trained as a garbage man, and one day a woman was throwing out way too much good stuff. Boxes of books, and I could see she was trying to fill a car and minivan. So I figured she was moving and having to sacrifice good stuff. I talked to her and offered to come back later and help her move so she did not have to throw away so much stuff. And it ended up being a story that her husband left her for her best friend, and they moved in together. And she could not afford the townhouse anymore as she was undergoing cancer treatment. We got married 1 year later. I like to say I found her in the trash and fixed her up, but the truth is it is opposite. I was the trash she fixed up. My dad used to do the cleaning for a mall, and he would bring us some amazing stuff sometimes. I remember he once came back home with a backpack full of miniature toys like the ones you find in Kinder Surprise. Another time an entire toy kitchen, and some kids magazines, Les Petites Princesses. I loved it. He also found a lot of stuff for our home, but I was a kid so I remember the toys more than anything. My dad worked at a landfill for most of my childhood, and my brother and I both got into related companies that directly dealt with landfills for a while. One of the most common things I remember hearing about and seeing all the time were clothing with minor irregularities that had to be thrown away by said clothing company. It was stuff like Roxy, Vans, and other stuff you'd see at places like Tilly's or similar clothing store. One of my old co-workers' families basically were clothed their whole life from this type of clothing being dumped. The clothing was clean or could be cleaned to a decent level that the clothing was fine to wear. It was dumb stuff like small rip, missing zipper, or some other weird thing they could not sell it that way. Everyone at the landfill was basically in on the scheme. When the truck with the clothing pulled up to the feed booth, someone would radio people at the dump site, and it was like a pack of vultures. Everyone on the site would swarm the truck as soon as everything was dumped out of the truck. Worked as a garbage man for a very short time last summer, but the best thing I found was an edition of my local newspaper from the day after the Challenger exploded. A Lane cedar chest. I was helping my dad clean out this lady's garage, and she said as long as we were there, we might as well take that, too. She said she always hated the smell of cedar, but her husband would not let her get rid of it, and now that he was dead, she was sending it on its way. The veneer was never in great shape, but it still keeps my wool items safe. I have had it for over 30 years now. My little brother was emptying out a client's basement and everything was going to be thrown away, so my brother was told to keep anything he wanted. He saw a nice looking bike and took it. Turns out it was a Daewoo P8 30th anniversary limited edition and in perfect condition. From what I found on it, it goes for over $4K. In the 80s I picked up a number of Philips color TVs. I had a few, so fixing them was just a question of swapping parts. I then sold them cheaply or gave them away to fellow students. When I was a kid I found a couch. It was not very big, but that's why it was so great. 10-year-old me was able to carry it all the way home by myself, about a block and a half. This was before kids having cell phones were huge, so I did not call my parents about it first, and they were at the store anyways, so I took the couch home and put it in my room. It was pretty dated, made of some material I have never encountered again so far, but I thought I was the shit. I had a whole couch in my room. How many 10-year-olds had couches in their room? Well, my parents came home and clearly were not happy. but given I carried it up to the second story and got it into my room, they let me keep it. My downstairs neighbor helped me. I felt like a king. I had a couch. I had a big box TV for my PlayStation. I had it all. Simpler times. Edit. So I just realized I misread the post entirely and that this was intended for the garbage pickup people and not dumpster diving stories. My bad. LOL. My dad was a trash man when I was growing up. He would always be bringing cool stuff home to us. He used to always say that the poor neighborhoods had the most trash and they threw away literally everything. The two best ones that I can think of was a brand new BMX bike and like 20 Nintendo 64 games that he found at a video rental store. Also once at the transfer station, one of his CO workers found a dummy arm in the big pile of trash. He pulled it and it ended up being a dead guy. The police later determined that it was a homeless person that got picked up and died when the trash truck compacted him. I worked as a garbage man in 1972. A small stray cat jumped into the back of the hopper to look for food. I took him home and named him Saigon. This was the best thing. Second best thing, someone threw out an old pair of skis. There was snow on the ground and me and the other guy each took a ski and stood on it and held onto the truck. Great fun. Third best, we found an entire case of Brylcreem. Look it up. And me and the other guy had Brylcreem fights all day. Total mess. I stripped off before going into my house after work. Worst things, a garbage can that had live coals in it that started our truck on fire. In the early 2000s, my best friend's dad was a gear rage man. I used to hang out at their house a lot and I remember him finding uncut sheets of holographic Dragon Ball Z trading cards in the trash and bringing them back. They were super dope to see. My friend found a PS4, excellent condition and a brand new controller still in the box. Found a 55-inch TV next to the dumpster 4 years ago. It was missing one HDMI port on the side. It looked like someone might have tripped and ripped it out. Anyway, I opened it up, googled the motherboard serial number and found a brand new replacement for like 60 less than 25 minutes away. Needless to say, I called ahead on my day off, picked it up and it works like a charm. Still use the TV to this day. 55 inches Sony 2012 LCD TV. I have Chromecast with Google TV hooked up to it now and it is awesome. I am not a garbage man, but I once scored a whole custom-built staircase from a dumpster. It was in perfect condition but apparently built to the wrong spec. It worked great for my barn. My father was a garbage man who also did clean-outs for homes and businesses, where they did rip apart the entire building and throw everything out in their dumpsters. He worked on a ton of really massive houses, some worth tens of millions of dollars. One was worth 40 million and was not even the permanent residence. Best things I got as a kid: pretty much a news trampoline with a net and everything. A go-kart that my dad's friend was able to fix up and we used all the time. I live on a dead end, and once he cleaned out a deli that was closing down, and we no joke had unlimited Snapples and sodas of every flavor for almost a year. I did drink the Snapples while out on the trampoline. I used the heck out of all three of those things in my childhood. Not me but my brother. Someone apparently threw out Grandpa's stuff from the attic after he passed away. This was the last scheduled pickup at the house and everything was already moved out. Nobody living there. Driving an automated claw to grab and dump truck. My brother was irritated. There were these 2 bowling bags he had to get out to throw in the truck. He realized they seemed a bit heavy, so he opened them to see why. Inside there was real silverware flatware. He ended up selling it for scrap prices to a jeweler and got $3,000. Not a garbage person, but I live in a large apartment complex. I could have furnished multiple apartments with all the stuff that gets thrown out here and partially furnished mine. But the best thing I've seen in the pile was one of those grandfather clocks you can make from a kit. It still looked very nice, but it needed some fixing to get it to run again. I am still waiting to find a piano. I would like a piano. My father was a garbage man when I was born. I don't remember because I was like 3 months old, but my first dog was in the trash. My dad stopped, picked up a box and heard some shuffling on the inside and there were 2 puppies. My dad kept one and the driver kept the other. They were brother and sister, my dad assumed. He kept the mail and named him Jasper. He was literally my best friend growing up. I had him for 13 years and my dad tells me the job was worth it just for that dog. He called the police and animal control on the residents but doesn't know what happened after that. All I know is I am 37 and still love that dog so much. I am so thankful my dad saved him and his sister. Edit spelling error. Edit 2 so it's my daughter's first birthday and I am only seeing all these comments now. Thank you to everyone who commented. A lot of people asked about the sister. Unfortunately, she only lived until she was 6. My dad stayed friends with the driver and I guess she darted out in the road and was hit by a car. It was very sad and I didn't know about that until I was a lot older. Our dog lived until he was 13 and then passed away of old age. But we did let them play together after they were separated. It's funny because my parents' first house was in a not so great part of town, but it was what they could afford. Anyway, across from our house was a train track and I would love watching the trains pass. Well, my dad took a photo of us one time both standing at the window and looking out at the train. Jasper would stand on his hind legs and watch with me. My wife actually had the photo blown up and custom framed for my birthday one year. It has to be one of my favorite photos. There aren't many things I am sure of in life, but I am positive Jasper lived a happy life after my dad found him. I am not joking when I say him and I did everything together. We were inseparable. Thank you again to everyone for all the nice comments. When I was growing up, my neighbor worked at the local council. One night he knocked on the door trying to rehome a couple of kittens that one of the workers had apparently found at the local tip. All I remember was this absolute giant of a man, normally the most common chill person I did ever met, absolutely seething with anger while holding a tiny ginger and white kitten in one of his hands. My guess is that someone had dropped off a box with them in hoping it would not be noticed, which somehow seems like more of a dick move and more effort than just leaving them somewhere public where they might be found by someone, even if you do not want to take them to a shelter. Anyway, as much as I begged and pleaded I was not allowed to keep one because my dad claimed allergies. No trash kitty for me. Finally something I can contribute to. I do trash at apartments. In the year one have worked the job, I have found and kept a couch, 2 desk chairs, a floor lamp, deck furniture, a TV stand, my cat, various decorations I have given to my mom, some things I have sold, a bike, 40 some outdoor vases, 30 a bed frame, 50 an original Xbox with at least 80 games all in a box, 20 to my friend that collects old video games. But yeah, it is crazy what people throw away. My uncle was still a garbage man and found a fully boxed Power Rangers Megazord toy. I do not remember which season or what, but it had been previously opened and all of the parts and such were still inside. I do not remember if they sold it off or what, but it was super cool to see. A part of me feels like maybe a collector tossed their boxes away and mistakenly threw the whole figure with it, or some kid's parent stitched it while cleaning up after a birthday or Christmas. I do not know, but feels bad. I worked as a show cleaner in Melbourne a few years ago and we would sometimes get leftovers from shows and fairs and other events. For example, after a coffee fair we got hundreds of cases of all sorts of plant-based milk. They were still on the pallets and the trader did not want to load them back up. At a beer and wine fair the same happened, but with wine and craft beer. We had quite a few parties sponsored from that one. Then there was this one big concert where a huge storm hit and everyone left everything they had brought behind to hide in their cars and leave. We found camping furniture and lots of closed beverages and food. One CO worker even found a bunch of bundled up cash, which amounted to a couple $100. And, since it was a concert of a band a lot of older people listened to, we found coke, handed it over to the authorities and later were told it was enough to buy a small car from the market value it represented. But the coolest thing that happened at one of the shows was not something we found. There was a big classic car event at the showgrounds and it had some of the finest and rarest cars you could imagine. At the end, we were cleaning as usual, and this guy comes up saying he saw us during the shows checking out some of the cars. At first I thought he had berated us, because we were just the cleaners and should focus on the job. But then he invites us to ride along if we wanted to. So that was the time I got a childhood dream fulfilled and was allowed to drive in a '69 Dodge Charger RT. This experience and the fact that we got to go backstage with some of the coolest bands was the big plus of an otherwise hard and dirty job. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.